traveling when I was very young. When I was an infant, I was traveling with my parents to visit my grandparents. And as I've grown older, I've continued to travel. How many of you have traveled outside the country? A lot. Excellent. So I'm sure you all have stories to tell. I would love to tell you a few of mine about my travel experience. I'd like to start with what defined me as a traveler. And there's one incident. I was traveling with my mother. We were in France. We were on the train heading from Barcelona on our way eventually to get to Paris. I was about 15. And a train pulled into the station and stopped. We stayed on the train because we were continuing on. And the train pulled out of the station backwards. And Mom said, "Oh my gosh, we're going the wrong way!" And I said, "Mom, we don't have to be in Paris for 5 days. Who cares?" And she thought about that for a second. She said, "Oh yeah, we have 5 days. That's plenty of enough time to get to Paris." And that defines me as a traveler. I like to go. I'm not so worried about the roundabout way I take to get there. That being said, I've had a few experiences. How many of you have ever been delayed? I was on my way back from South America. I'd been gone for nearly 3 months. I was about 17, 18, and I was ready to go home. I'd flown to Miami and got on a different plane, and then I'd flown to Denver and was waiting for my flight. And they tell us, "We're sorry, the plane is here, but the crew is in Minneapolis." So we sat there, and this was back when you could still smoke in the airport and when I was still a smoker. I had purchased a carton of cigarettes in South America, and my parents didn't know I smoked. So I sat in the terminal and smoked an entire carton of cigarettes. I had been awake at that time for about 24, maybe 25 hours. And when we finally boarded that plane, I got in my seat, put on my seatbelt, didn't even roll the seat back, and I fell asleep. We hadn't even left the terminal. When the plane landed in Portland, I was still asleep. When all the people got off the plane, I was still asleep. When the crew got off the plane, I was still asleep. This was also before the age of cell phones. So my parents had been waiting in the airport for 5 hours for me to get off the plane. And they see all the people get off the plane. And they see the crew get off the plane. They see the pilot with the little wheelie bag get off the plane. And they ask, "Hey, is there anybody still on the plane?" "Yeah, there's some lady in there. We can't wake her up." I can sleep through anything. Which is why I had stayed awake and smoked an entire carton of cigarettes in Denver. I've had a few experiences like that. Recently, 7, 8 years ago now, I was in Barcelona. I love Barcelona. It's a beautiful city. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Barcelona, take the opportunity. See the architecture, see the beautiful art, Picasso Museum, the Miro statues, Park Güell, all of the wonderful Gaudi buildings and structures. And I had been there in Barcelona for 2 months, which isn't long enough. And I was riding on the bus. I had purchased a bus pass for a month. And I knew all the bus routes around Barcelona and surrounding areas. And I was talking to the bus driver. Because what am I going to do? You know, it's Barcelona. I'm talking to the bus driver. We're having a fabulous conversation. When all of a sudden, he turns the wrong way on a one-way street. We stopped the conversation and I got off at the next stop. I had a lot of fun in Barcelona. And when I took the train back to Madrid, I had one day. So I got off the train in Madrid, I organized all my stuff, and I slept for a night and went to the airport. And I sat in the airport with $5 to my name. American dollars, that's all I had left. I had one $5 bill. All my credit cards were maxed out. I had $5, and I was stuck in the Madrid airport. And the airplane, because it was foggy, was diverted to Barcelona. I was going to Barcelona. So with my $5, I traded it for €4 and bought a sandwich. It was a nice size sandwich, but it was just one sandwich. And I had to make it from Madrid all the way back to Portland with my maxed out credit cards. So I did. I made it back home with no incident. Now this just illustrates a little bit about me and the first story that I told you about my mom and I traveling, and how I really prefer the journey and experiencing the journey rather than focusing on where I'm going. I'm more concerned with how I'm going to get there and what I'm going to see along the way. Now I have not traveled near enough in my life. Who has? And I hope someday to have the opportunity once again to travel back to Spain, because I love that country. But I also have a long, long bucket list of places I hope to visit someday. And I would love to have companionship. So if you want to travel, let me know. I can't pay for you, but I would love for you to travel.